favorite moments from The Mandalorian this week, and I'm going to be honest, this is going to be a hot take, probably not my favorite episode of the season.
Really?
By far. Far behind. Streets behind.
Like your least favorite?
Probably so far my least favorite of the season. And I don't think it was like the story or anything. I just really didn't like the directing.
Wow, that is a hot take. What is your favorite episode of the season?
Oh, easily the episode where they go to Sundari, the Mines Mandalore.
Okay.
You got to give it up. That's a beautiful episode, and getting to see Sundari, like 1,000-year-old ruined civilization almost, is incredible.
Yeah.
But if I had to give up my favorite for this episode, I'm going to go with the bureaucracy and the New Republic. Fantastic.
I forget the actor's name, but he was funny. He kind of added this, like, no wonder you guys lost to the First Order vibe. You know what I mean?
You mean the principal from Mean Girls? Or are you talking about Carson Teva?
Yeah. My office now.
Don't set those there. That's my workspace.
Yeah. My favorite part of the episode was Zeb. Because as you know, Rebels is my favorite Star Wars of all time. And I'm gonna be honest, when it happened, I was like, oh, cool, is that Zeb? Like, I didn't think it was, and I'm like, I missed everything in the scene because I was like, and then when you like hear his iconic voice, you're like, oh my god, and then you start thinking, he's a pilot, he's with them, and like it was a great moment, like it was cool. It was, and it happened early, so like it kind of got like that craziness out of the way.
I'm gonna be so honest. I was so focused on our boy Zeb, and I'm gonna show the clip because he's my son.
I really thought Navarro.
Look how good he looks.
He looks the best out of all CGI Star Wars. Better than Cad Bane,
swamped. Never get
Grand Inquisitor. Look at that.
I mean, they had to get it right.
You see the hair there, like he that's Zeb. Like Zeb is probably the hardest one from Rebels to do, and like they nailed him.
Yes. 100%. I didn't even notice in that very scene because I was so focused on Zeb that you see Deborah Chow, Dave Filoni, and Peter Fukuyama.
Yeah, how could you miss that hat?
Well, I was like, that's weird that Cad Bane's there, and left it at that.
That's why Cad Bane lived all those years. He's like, he's the guy with the hat. Nothing bad's going to happen to him for at least, the beginning.
They brought him back to life just because Dave was like, it's a good hat.
Yeah, you just wear my hat. No, but it was, I liked how, like, he was there, but like he wasn't, it was a kind of a real truly Easter egg because that's just a random character saying, hey, I hope this happens, I hope this happens, just an actor,
Yeah.
But like it's building, this Mandoverse kind of has great pieces from all Filoni's work and kind of other things too, like R5 from Legends and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think it's really interesting that you bring up R5 because he's doing it again. If you if you remember, there's a Legends comic that explains that R5 was force sensitive and blew that motivator so R2 could go with Luke because he knew that's what had to happen. And I think it's very interesting that they brought him back again to do very much the same thing. Like, oh, well, of course he knows Captain Teva and would tell him where the Mandalorian is because he needs help.
Yeah, that is cool.
But do you think that
stay with like R5, like, because it's weird that Mando has a droid because like
so weird.
You know what I mean? But like it's kind of a full circle because in the beginning he hated droids, so now like he just isn't bothered by them, which is kind of cool.
100%. This feels like that is deliberately done to show how his character has grown over the 3 seasons nearly now that we've watched him. Because you're right, he did go from I don't want droids working on my ships to now he's got one that he was like, well, you know what? I'm going to send you out there first because I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of droid Grogu's going to have eventually.
R5.
Really? Wow.
Saying R5 forever.
Mark it.
That's the family droid.
Yeah.
But I guess now that we're here and now that we're about to break down the episode, we have to answer the question, are we ready to admit that Din is possibly one of the best pilots in the Star Wars galaxy? And
I think after this week, you honestly, like Hera, Poe, Wedge are arguably the best. You know what I'm saying? But every couple episodes, Mando does it. And in the beginning, like the first season was like, he destroyed a couple of TIE fighters, did some cool moves, he just knows what he's just a good fighter, like he survives every time, he just knows what he's doing. But this episode, he literally was like, all right, I'm just gonna go 1v8 right now, and I have my son just chilling with me because I'm just not worried. And then I'm just you know what I mean, like
Yeah, he was like 1 in 10. I like those odds.
yeah, and he has to be considered, if not the best, one of the best pilots in the Star Wars universe after this episode.
I think you can definitely put him up there in the top 5 with people like Hera, Poe, Wedge. I think Din you could do 4th, and then you have Han Solo up there as well, who is arguably the best pilot because he is the only person to have defeated Anakin Skywalker in combat. So
He's a getaway driver. Like, he's the best. Like, you need to get somewhere real fast or away from something, Han Solo's your man. But I think if I had to like list them in an order, it'd be, I think I'd give it to Hera, then Poe, and then Mando, and then Wedge, and then Han Solo.
Ooh, that's gonna make some people mad that you're putting Mando above Wedge.
Don't care.
If they read the Legends books, they'll be upset.
And I almost want to put Poe on top, but like Hera's just done so much more than we've seen, and like I said, Rebels fanatic.
Yeah, but Hera didn't do the first like prank call in Star Wars history. It's one of my favorite moments. The opening of The Last Jedi is perfect because of that.
Yeah,
loved it.
The humor in The Last Jedi, because that's not one of my favorite movies, but the humor is so subtle, but throughout that, like, it made that movie when I was watching it in theaters, like really enjoy it.
I loved it, but we have a lot to talk about this week. So let's break down The Mandalorian. And the first thing I want to do is I want to point out there's something in there that I missed that you showed me. Death Watch.
Full disclosure, I saw that on TikTok, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Death Watch. I remember that scene.
But that's very interesting to see Death Watch working in all these other sects of Mandalorians. Yeah. And, we kind of talked last week about how it was weird that all of these, like, little petty squabbles have kind of started disappearing. And we got more of that this week. And then you see this Death Watch member, and you're like, wow, that's somebody working with Bo-Katan who probably has a very long history with her. Showing them that it's over. The Mandalorians are ready to
the symbols right there.
Come back.
Like, they got helmets, but they're looking at each other like, hey, remember that Fall of Mandalore stuff? Yeah, I remember.
Which, now that you've noticed this, brings me to an interesting point that I keep seeing and have seen since season 1 of the show. Do you think the armor is one of Maul's Mandalorians? Or the alternate theory that she's a Zabrak?
I think... How else would she like not know these things about, Bo-Katan and everything, and just the horns and just it makes sense, it makes sense, and that's why she kind of like maybe kind of herself has changed. I'm sure if she was that character, then she went through her own arc, and now she's trying to connect her culture again. You know what I'm saying? I was kind of confused at the end when they make her take her helmet off and stuff like that. I thought it was a trick at first.
That's what I thought too, because even she's like, wait.
Yeah, is she getting too powerful? She wants to be like, oh, you took your helmet off, you gotta leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that. And then, she walks out there. Paz, even after giving this inspirational speech to help Mando, looks at Mando to see if this is okay. You can really see that there's unity. And now that they have a place to like kind of call their own, it's going to be kind of some of these Mandalorians versus whoever this threat is in the Mandoverse for them, whether it's Thrawn, whether it's just Moff Gideon, whether it's somebody else. But
yeah.
It's going to build towards that, I think. And then I think, unfortunately, we're probably going to get the full, if it's the villain in the last episode. And this whole season kind of will have built up what we're going to really go through in the 4th season.
I'm really hoping so. I will say I was not expecting the pirates to come back up this soon. I thought they were going to save them for later.
Yeah. Those pirates suck. They got beaten real easy. I mean, I know they're Mandalorians, but it was
that is actually one of the big issues I had with the episode is how that whole battle broke down, and the fact that it looked like Star Wars brought to you by the CW.
You didn't like the special effects?
It was very empty.
Okay.
That size ship, you should have a lot more than like 12 pirates on the planet.
True. I'll give you that.
You've got 10 and snub fighters. That thing looked like it had like 8 to 10 cannons aside. So you're already looking at a crew of 30 people, plus the people it takes to man the bridge. You mean to tell me you don't have a big enough boarding party to hold a city better than that?
Yeah. Like that. Like if the village people knew that going in, they'd be like, yo, just get some cannons and take care of these guys ourselves.
I also feel like it went very fast. I was expecting more of a struggle than we got. And I think that maybe that's to show off the superiority of the Mandalorians. But I think them having faced some adversity there would have kind of helped their cause.
Yeah. It was really just like if they were pinned down one time, the armor went beast mode, and then
God, dude.
That siege was crazy. Like they were kind of like going through like that's kind of like what you want to see from the Mandalorians as a
I'm gonna be real. I think the armor is my character of the episode for this one. They really made her shine when she's just walking through these people. The tongs. She's using the tongs as weapons.
She's like forged in fire, just knocking people down. You know, it's great.
And I do love. I think on the whole, you know, when we went into this, we thought, okay, well, Bo-Katan's gonna be the bad guy.
Yeah,
not gonna be Bo-Katan. It's gonna be the armorer. I like how they've set up all these female villains, and then instead of doing that, they've subverted it entirely, and we don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's been great for the season, and
I'm
really curious.
Kind of like always saying, you know, there's filler. They don't know where it's going, and I always ask them, did you know where it was going in the first season? Did you know where it was going in the second season? You know, the first two episodes, you know, were kind of just, you know, setting up, you know, just. Hey, it's not the first season, these quick little adventures. Then all of a sudden you're seeing Ahsoka, then he's kidnapped, and then, you know, every episode had either a huge cameo or return character, and then Luke Skywalker then takes him away. You know, like the adventure just happens. You know, you don't need, you know, kind of like an informed who this is and where it's going for a season, or else you'd be bored. You know what I mean?
And that's very true. And I think that, you know, the big cameos that they did in the first two seasons were to keep people drawn in by going, oh, hey, remember this character? But now we're to the point where the audience has this connection with Mandalorian and Grogu that we don't need that stuff. I mean, look how little they use Zeb in that episode compared to if we'd seen him in season 1, it would have been a Zeb episode.
Yeah, which is good because, you know, like it's a treat for fans like me who are Rebels fans who are like, oh my God, but it doesn't throw the onus on the cameo to be the episode. You know, you can just enjoy the episode with the cameo. You know what I mean?
100%. I had thought that he was going to play a bigger part, and then when he just like walked off screen and that was it for the whole episode, I was like, okay, so that wasn't even Zeb.
Yeah. What drew me into that scene was they had like the music, like as you were kind of coming in. And I play a lot of Jedi Fallen Order, and like the first scene and the really crucial scene in the middle has like, you know, weird Star Wars music, but it's kind of like grunge Star Wars music.
Yeah, like, that's right, because that's the scene, this scene, right?
Yeah.
Where they're playing like the psychedelic rock.
Yeah, exactly. Like they do this like for the whole intro in Jedi Fallen Order, and then like later when he Cal fights, he's like, "Hey, I know this."
You know what? That almost makes me feel like I want to look this up to see if that is the Who, the same band they used for Fallen Order.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
It's cool when they do things like that because it's a nothing thing, but when you notice, you're like, oh, that's so cool, you know, like those are Easter eggs done right, I believe.
Yeah, and I loved that. That's not even really an Easter egg, but it is expanding because I'm a musician. In front of me and all on the wall here, I've got a bunch of guitars, a mandolin, stuff like that. I love music in Star Wars that isn't John Williams because it makes you feel more immersed in it because you're hearing their music.
I feel like John Williams wrote the book on Star Wars music, but other musicians can now fill in chapters in that book. You know, because Kevin Kiner, who works on like, you know, I think like the last season of Clone Wars and Bad Batch, his music is insane. You know, that like with that scene where like Ahsoka is kind of like standing with the clones and you just hear like that piano notes. That is probably one of the most recognizable Star Wars sounds ever, and it's not John Williams. And it's cool that they're kind of expanding that. It's like awesome.
Yeah, I really agree. And again, you know, anything that pulls the viewer into that universe more and gets you really in it, even the small stuff like that music in the background, does wonders for retention. Like I you good? Just spilled a drink. I really think that Disney is finally coming to understand how to make good Star Wars. That is not just like a rehash of what we've done.
Don't ask the internet. They will be like, no, this is terrible.
Well, the internet still thinks that they're going to retcon the sequels when they're really just building towards it. So
just filling in the Clone Wars did that beautifully for you know
the prequels.
And I think, you know, like Babu Frick was in this episode. You know, he's one of the most beloved characters from Rise of Skywalker. You know what I mean? And I love Babu Frick too. You know, like when I saw Duke get in, I was like, How could you hate him? You know?
Can we also point out the Kowalkian monkey lizard redemption arc? Did you catch that when he like points at the ambush?
He's like, this dude just shot at me. You know what? He's over there. There's
And
5 of them.
I even think
low.
that's proving that Disney understood something that George Lucas didn't, which was like, if you want to sell toys of Ewoks, they don't have to be front and center.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, there's a bunch of nerds out there that were like, oh, they help the Mandalorians. I'm going to order a Salacious B. Crumb Pop.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like kids see that and it's like, oh, it's disgusting. I want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What did you think with the ending? Because this is one of the first endings that we got in The Mandalorian where it's not a cliffhanger, but like it's like a mystery where you don't know, you know, where they found like I think like a Mandalorian shard.
Yeah, shard of Beskar alloy is what they call it. Yeah. Because I had a note to stop and talk about this too, because I really was into this. I think that the biggest surprise there was not the Beskar alloy so much as just like they even found it. Because we already knew earlier in the season that Moff Gideon never made it to trial. So we knew he was gone. So I'm wondering like what the significance of that Beskar alloy is. Yeah. And if you want my opinion, I think we're getting ready to see like an opposing sect of Mandalorians that are serving the Remnant.
That would be dope.
And they could even be like some leftover hardliners from Maul's Death Watch who feel like he was the last person to really have the Darksaber the proper way, so they'll follow that sort of line of thinking.
Yeah. I like how they had the tone shift because, you know, I like famously do not like scary movies. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it was so creepy.
Yeah, and like I'm watching, I'm like, what's going on right now? I don't like this. This is we've got 4 minutes left. What are we doing right now? You know what I mean? Like it was well done, and like I like the mystery because now I'm like, you know, I wonder what it is. You know, it's not. It could be, you know, Sabine. It could be another sect, which I hope it is too, because it'd be cool to see some Mandalorian versus Mandalorian action.
And that makes the most sense because the show's about them anyway. You know?
Yeah, because you at some point you're gonna have to see Din, the Mandalorian, use his Darksaber and finally cross that bridge over the hump and like use it right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whether it's Bo is in trouble or something happens with Grogu and he's in trouble and he just finally uses it, and like facing another sect of Mandalorians might be just who want to take it the way.
Yeah. And I think that you're right there. I'm not going to rule that out. I think that's possibly the strongest theory we have right now as to who done it.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was where that was going to go at all. So there's a rumor that's been floating around that in Ahsoka, Ezra's going to fight zombified stormtroopers, like that Legends book.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be setting up that.
Really?
Because I was like, abandoned Lambda shuttle in space that was blasted, so it's got no pressure inside. That to me reeks like there were zombies. And we see that that's not the case, that this looks to be Moff Gideon's shuttle.
Yeah.
But I thought that would have been a really cool angle to take it to confirm that rumor before the show drops for those of us that follow that sort of stuff.
Well, zombies are hot right now.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. Like, surely they knew with like The Last of Us coming out this year that it was going to come around again.
Yeah. I remember that one episode of like Clone Wars. They had like the
Geonosian thing, the worm. Yeah.
I thought that was like a slight nod to that Legend stuff too. What's your favorite Legends? Because I have like a stack this big of Legends books, but I read them when I was a nerd, when I was like 12 and 13, and that was in the fucking 90s. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna be honest. I think my favorite books that are considered Legends now are the novelizations, the prequel series.
Really?
I own all three.
But I remember the Revenge of the Sith one like went hard.
The Revenge of the Sith one does go hard. I reread it last year before Kenobi came out, like the week before. Okay. And just ran through the book to have like some context that wasn't in the movie, and then immediately turned around and got 1 and 2.
Okay.
So I could go and read them as well, and they're phenomenal. They add a lot to those movies. They make them better in a lot of ways. I think that if you're a fan who wasn't big on the prequels, reading the novelization will help.
Yeah.
Also, Mace Windu gets a dope
like,
force power.
I would just remember like the prequels being like, we loved them, but like, you know, we had like a complaint, but that's every movie. You know, I went into Infinity War, which is one of like the best movies ever, but left it going, you know, they could have done this one thing better. You know what
I mean? I really think that I don't understand toxic Star Wars fans. I just know that they exist to a degree that I cannot explain or comprehend.
Because there are things I like truly do not like about Star Wars, but you can discuss them civilly and pick things you like from them. You know what I mean?
So before we switch over to Bad Batch, I want some predictions. What do we think is going to happen the rest of this season for Mandalorian? Because, you know, our Bad Batch predictions, which we'll show you guys in a moment, the ones from last week that we nailed, by the way.
Well, I think you're right and I'm right. I think they are going to find another sect of Mandalorians. And I think hopefully someone gets in trouble, either Bo or Grogu, and Din finally has to use his Darksaber right. But I think that kind of comes towards the end.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get one more kind of like important scene with the girl who's a spy from Moff Gideon. And that's going to kind of clue us into like something big that like we don't see that we're finally going to understand. Because like they wouldn't do the whole arc where like they did the whole thing about the Pershing.
Yes.
And bring her into this episode where, you know, she's kind of sabotaging the Republic from within, going, hey, did they sign this treaty? Oh, well, you can't help them legally. Sorry, no doubt. Yeah. You know what's one thing that, speaking of the Bad Batch, that I think the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch are doing well is they're kind of placing some blame on like the leaders and stuff. Like they kind of like throwing shade at Mon Mothra. And then Saw Gerrera, you know, he messed up. And I love Saw Gerrera. I literally wrote an article that said, would Saw Gerrera be a better leader
for the rebellion than Mon Mothma?
I'm literally
I do
going to delete
remember
that article now because I'm like, you killed Tech.
We'll get into that in a minute. But I do think that you're 100% right. I loved, and again, I can't state this enough, how much we've seen the inefficiency of the New Republic through this season of The Mandalorian. It's perhaps been one of my favorite elements. It's giving a lot of credence to the Rise of the First Order, and it's doing it perfectly. Do you think we see Moff Gideon before season end, or do you think they save him for 3?
No, I think we see him. I think we see him in the next episode, honestly. And I think it's here's a prediction. I think that we kind of go into the past a little bit, not like past, but like
a flashback to the shuttle.
Exactly, and we see like that, like maybe even the beginning of the episode before we get that Mandalorian logo.
That would be a good cold open.
Yeah, their cold opens are good.
See, I think he's going to be in like the final episode in the last 30 seconds.
Really?
I think they save him for the very end to remind you that there is a bigger bad than whatever they end up fighting next.
Here's a question I give to you. Do you think Mando loses Grogu again, or do you think that's done?
I think we're done with that.
Okay, good.
Because I'm sure when they had him, they got enough blood.
Yeah, and I think they kind of have finally connected the sequels, honestly, with the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian with those two plot lines. Like they got Grogu, they had him, they lost him, they got him again, they lost him. Same thing with Omega. They had her, they lost her, and now
they have her again.
They have her. So now all roads to Snoke and the Emperor and somehow Palpatine have returned are done. It makes better sense than, you know, people are like, how did this happen? Now you know.
And before we get into the Bad Batch, I'm going to start this out with a little bit of eye bleach you sent me after I finished watching this. The way it should be.
I'm going to find that out, who wrote that, and we're going to credit them next week. But someone sent me that, and I thought it was a beautiful picture. Tell us if you know in the comments.
100%, because damn it.
And
why did we have to be right?
That's happening.
So if you watched us last week, you may be familiar with the clip I'm about to show, just to prove that we were right.
I think just because, you know, we know things go terrible for Rex, I think that Echo dies, the last domino. And then I think that Crosshair is kind of a trade-off. Like, they lose Echo, but they gain Crosshair, and Crosshair saves Omega. Or, you know, they go big, which, you know, I don't think Filoni would do, but Omega's captured at the end of the season, and it's a cliffhanger season. So you need season 3, and, like, you want season 3.
That would be tight, I think. I think what's going to happen, I don't think they're going to kill off Echo.
Not yet?
Not yet.
What happens?
I think they go... I think they're going to hit the middle ground. He's going to go bigger death, no cliffhanger.
Okay.
I think Wrecker or Tech die at the end of the season. Whoops.
I hate to be right.
I'm sorry.
We're both half right and half wrong. It was kind of great.
But we called, I loved how you're like, well, you know, if they're going to be outlandish, this is what they'll do, was the right answer.
Yeah.
Because like, I think they'll just go middle ground. I think they'll kill someone you're
like,
expecting.
well, they're going to play it safe, or they're going to go for it. And like, they went for it. And like,
they did.
Look how epic it was, you know? Like, that scene, I don't think we have it, but like, where like Omega was kind of unconscious and being carried towards the ship, and like the sound was drowned out. Like, and the animation goes so hard. like they know how to rip your guts out and just literally like you're watching in silence. Like when I watched it with my friend Kristen, she was crying, and I'm like, I'm just like, and like the whole time just mad at Saw Gerrera, mad at Dave Filoni, mad that.
Why you got to do all this character development, make me like him, and then kill him, which I told you was why they did it.
Yeah.
God, I know, just the roughest finale, but worth it.
Yeah. It's beautifully done.
And with the animation, I'm so glad that Clone Wars they stuck with this, because seeing how it's paid off in the Bad Batch has been phenomenal.
Yeah, man.
Because you're right, that went so hard.
If the Bad Batch die and everybody does, the show continues with another group of characters, because it's the story of Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a story against the Empire. You know what I'm saying? Like like those last 2 episodes were so good. For one, they had Krennic in that episode, so they're talking about Stardust, talking about
for one line too, and it was the actual actor.
Yeah, you could hear it.
Ben
and
Mendelsohn.
Like it's amazing that actors want to do that, because they love it. They love the story. They love to be in it. It's a great universe. I love it. I don't know. It was
well, I mean, even the fact that they got Ahmed Best back in the Mandalorian. I mean, people that weren't sold on it the first go around have come back for a much better second chance.
Yeah, I think they need to continue that trend. Like, I think the next person on that list needs to be John Boyega and Jake Lloyd. Yeah, obviously Jake Lloyd. I think he didn't want to do it, but obviously Jake Lloyd and John Boyega.
He's coming back. I'm telling you, you're right. He's coming back for something. I don't know what yet.
Yeah, man, he better. Like, you do like a cool cameo for Jake Lloyd, just so same thing. Give him just make him a Jedi and just give him a badass scene where he's just cutting and it's like, all right, it's worth it. You see this?
Yeah, exactly. So you said something earlier about how this was all Saw's fault, and I want to touch on that because I already see your face. Yeah, how much of this do you really attribute to Saw Gerrera?
He pushed a button, blew up, and Tech died. If he had waited, I don't know, 3 more minutes, they survive.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that,
and his reasoning was dumb. He literally just said, like, hey, you can't do this because we're tracking this, blah, blah, blah. And Saw's like, I'm fighting an empire, blah, blah, blah. And, he's correct, but like, he dismissed, he's like, we're trying to find our brothers, our clones who are being like kidnapped. Like, what are you saving the universe for if not for the people who are being hurt by the empire? His dismissal of it was just like, and I know they have to like, you have to create, holes in these people's personalities because they were wrong and right. And like in a war, nobody's perfect.
I was about to say, the thing that I love about what they're doing with Saw, and have done since they put him in the Clone Wars, is he's been an outstanding example of somebody fighting in a revolutionary movement who will achieve their goal at the expense of anything else, up to and including their lives. Because remember, the first death that really radicalized him was his sister.
Yeah.
And that he did that.
Insane in Clone Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, he learns, he's so outlandish and then realizes he has to work with the team. And then his sister dies and his switch turns off and he is never the same character.
Exactly. And I think that's like the defining moment is ultimately the thing he loved the most. The Empire, the Confederacy did not take away from him. He did.
Like, I'm a Hunger Games fan, and didn't read the books. I really like the movies, but I'm always on like Hunger Games TikTok, and there's always this discourse about Gale and how he's just this character affected by war, and he's like the perfect example of someone affected by war. And I think the Star Wars version of that is Saw Gerrera, because his life is destroyed by war, and can you really blame anything he's ever done? He's not like he's taking a break. Like every moment of his life, he's fighting the Emperor and the Empire.
I am still out here standing Saw Gerrera after this episode.
Me too, but Tech.
I know, man. I wasn't expecting Tech to die this episode, but what a fantastic way to go. His send-off was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, Saw was wrong this time. Saw was definitely wrong in Rebels with that one Geonosian guy.
Did you? Yeah, that was terrible. That was
like there are examples where I'm like, perhaps he did go a little too far, but once again,
but in the end, with life, he lets them. He realizes he's wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The one thing about like, I'm so upset about Tech.
Well, if you want to take a second to gather your thoughts, I would like to insert the clip.
Our final night alive, and as the earth burns to the ground.
she's just like reaching for nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
What
it's
you
crazy
what
that
you see
Plan
there is the
99
face of
is-
somebody getting traumatized, and that is a very good reaction of it through animation at that.
Yeah, Plan 99 too, because like I remember seeing the episode, and I was like, I wonder what Plan 99 is. And then when you see him die and sacrifice himself, you just like you remember 99, the clone that like sacrificed himself for like,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh yeah, how did I not see that?
It
Input-
that may be the most painful death I've witnessed in Disney Star Wars, and I saw The Force Awakens on opening day.
That's crazy.
I really hate that I was right and it was Tech.
Yeah.
Because he's one of my favorite characters. He's gotten so much character building over the season only to die. But my God, what a way to go out like an absolute bamf.
What did you think about the reveal that the doctor's assistant was like an Omega clone?
See, here's the thing. I don't think she's an Omega clone. I think she is a clone of Boba set up to be altered. I don't think Omega's the fifth altered clone. I think it's the Doctor.
Okay.
Because the Doctor's a lot older than Omega.
Yeah.
Or the Doctor's assistant, rather. So, like, I think she was like the first one that they were like, we're going to make a better genetic template. It didn't go the way they wanted it to. And then they made Omega as a completely unaltered clone of Jango. Which is why she doesn't age quickly. None of that.
Yeah. I have a prediction for the premiere.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
I think he's going to go hardcore. And I think like when Commander Cody and Rex are going to help, obviously, the Batch try and find Omega. And I think that's when Echo dies. And I think that might happen, literally, right away.
I don't think you get them killing off two people that quickly.
I think the back would be crazy because you just don't expect it.
That is true. You wouldn't expect it. But I think they got rid of Tech because people complained in the first season that he and Echo were so similar.
Really?
To me, it almost sounds like to spite those fans. We're going to give you all the
like, is that a weird joke?
Love him, and now he's dead.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, they're a little similar. Well, we cloned them from the same person. I don't know. Like,
also very true.
To do with it.
But I kind of wonder if that wasn't intentional. Like, oh, we'll make you care about him this season then.
Yeah. And like, there was no filler in this season. I get that some episodes
looking back at it, no, there was
every
not.
episode built in some way. Even the slowest one, where the Wanda Sykes character, you know, and they had the kind of like Fallen Order fucking connection.
Oh,
like,
with the big,
I forget
like
what the
monster thing.
Zepho, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that connects because that's Tech dying. That's like him meeting her. You know what I'm saying? That's like a love story that matters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Wanda Sykes' character finding out that he's dead.
And that Sid betrayed them.
Oh, I was so mad because that whole transition was like this. Just stop, and I see Sid's face. Oh no.
Yeah,
because I knew.
You ruined everything, you stupid bitch.
I mean, she didn't kill Tech.
But you got the rest of them all
remind us that was Saw.
Yeah, Saw's another thing. Like he's the worst, but like she's dirty. Like he just like you're garbage, you're trash. Like I don't know if we're gonna get you ever again, or if they just kind of like you like they're gonna like show you like in the future kind of how Anakin's I forget the dude with
Watto.
the wings. Yeah, like they show Watto like as a homeless person like years later. Like maybe we'll get that like small reference, but like she needs to get shot. She's the worst.
Yeah, I completely agree. But again, just what an episode! Because I really, number one, I was not expecting to see Tarkin again in the first episode, and my man still maintains the total calm of a Zen master because he doesn't even get up. He's just like, no, we'll pick back up in a minute. Let's just everybody.
I like the little cattiness between him and the Hemlock
Doctor.
Character.
Oh my God, when he was like, well, there was something I had to do before I got here.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like, you guys need a minute.
Which I guess really does show how much sway Hemlock has in the Imperial government because he's doing this project that is make me a clone so I never die.
Exactly. But But Tarkin's his boy too, because he's like, hey, Tarkin's probably one of the most ruthless, smartest people in the world, so don't piss him off.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see how they butt heads further on.
You know what
I don't
really
think they're
bothers
done
me?
with
It's because
that.
we all know Tarkin dies. He's like the death of the like whatever in A New Hope, the first movie. But all we get is just more and more and more evil Tarkin. And it just, I feel like his death isn't satisfying enough because I've seen it already. You know what I'm saying? But he just keeps doing shit after he's dead. Like,
Yeah, and it's like his death's not even like the whole focus of that. It's literally the space station blowing up. His death was as an afterthought.
Dude, he's the worst. He's such a because like you know characters like that exist in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see it, like you're just like, like
yeah. And they do such a good job with Tarkin on that stuff too, because he's not like cartoonishly mustache twirling evil.
Yeah, no.
He's like super calculated evil.
Yeah.
He's like that guy that the United Fruit Company had in charge when they decided to go into South America to lower the prices of bananas. That's right, Chiquita. I remember. But no, I think that next season, I think we get to find out what's going on with Crosshair and those clones on the table, and they're either going to be Death Troopers or what's the other one? Dark Troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're turning them into one of
they have to like start somewhere. You know what I mean?
It's either that or they're just going to start injecting them with something like force-sensitive blood to see how the clones react to it. I don't know, but my gut feeling says these are going to be like Dark Troopers or Death Troopers 1.
I definitely think we get a full Crosshair redemption arc. Like he's back with the batch and like, because like you knew Tech was going to die because as soon as he was the one that said, hey, no, we can't leave our brother there. We have to do this. Eventually, like Cross can be like, where's Tech? Well, he died trying to save you. And even in the first season, like he's like, you're not mad at me. And he's like, you did what you had to do.
Yeah,
he made the most logical choice because he's definitely autistic coded. You know what I'm saying? And like
100%. Which again, the way they
amazing.
handled him all season is like a discussion about autism, and then just to kill him. It really hurt.
Yeah,
but I think that's going to be one of those things that definitely next weekend at Celebration, when we get season 3 announced. I think that's going to be what stands out in people's minds until they watch again is how much they love Tech and he died. Yeah. Do you have any other predictions or anything? We're about at time.
No. I just hope Celebration's good, man. Like that'll be a fun thing to talk. What day is that?
It is Easter weekend.
So yeah, like it goes through the week to like
Thursday,
Monday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Right.
Monday, I think.
That'd be fun. Next week we just have to talk about Mandalorian though.
Next week we do just have to talk about Mandalorian, which should be interesting now that we're not juggling both. We can kind of get into the nitty-gritty of Mando a little bit more.
Yeah. It'll be like they only have 3 episodes left, so they're like each episode's going to be insane. And I think we have Bryce directing.
Bryce is directing the next one, yeah.
Yeah, and every episode she's done has been
phenomenal.
Yeah,
I really want her to get her own show. I don't care what she does. I just want to see what she does with her own Star Wars show.
If you could greenlight a Star Wars show, would it be? Like,
ooh, that's a good question. If I had to greenlight like
in charge
any sort of Star Wars show, like if I'm sitting at the desk at Lucasfilm, and this is probably gonna make some people very unhappy, a political drama, like a very dark kind of House of Cards-y, gritty political drama set at the like tail end of the Republic, the last few years of the Clone Wars. I think I'd like to see some Palpatine's political maneuvering, and we have all of the actors to do it. No one's dead. Ian McDermott's old, but
he loves doing it. He comes into the studio, drops some lines, and just walks off like a G.
And, I'm not saying it would have to be live action, but it would have to be live action. But I think if they were in it for like 1 or 2 seasons and they just did like this political thriller that shows Palpatine consolidating power right before the Empire, I think it would be fantastic.
If you did that animated, you could sneak it into Tales of the Jedi and do a Tales of the Jedi and have it be about the Emperor. And he would be the main character. And then you kind of get like, what did he do for 3 days type thing? You know what I'm saying? Like that would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. And I do think, much like Visions, that will be back for a second season. Has to be. First one was too good.
Yeah. Visions, I like I remember because I make so much content, like the Ninth Jedi and the Village Bride are two of the best stories I've ever like seen in my life. And then like the first one with the
first
Ronin,
episode. Oh,
that was crazy. And then even the one that was like really Dragon Ball like Z Super, like the one with the brothers and the sister, like, dude,
the twins.
how do you not like? How do you hate that? It's not canon. I don't care. They're wizards in space. Your
I
man
think
flew
that
on top
one was
of it.
probably my least favorite. I really liked the old man one. I really liked the Ronin. Lop and
The old man
Ocho.
with, which one?
The one with the two Jedi fighting the old man that turned out to be a Sith on the
That
planet.
was sick.
Dope.
Like
One of my
that's
favorites
one of my
of the whole thing.
like out of the favorites, one of my least favorite because like the Ninth and the Village Bride goes so hard. But that one, it's a crazy story. Like if you like expanded on that or him as a character when he was younger, dude, that was sick. It was kind of dark
insane.
too. Like it wasn't as like happy as the other ones. You know what I mean?
I also really liked Lop and Ocho, the one with the like rabbit girl.
Yeah. That one was interesting because I think it had some of the best fight scenes. Like the final fight scene was just like very anime, like I kind of feel like I was watching like something in Avatar almost, you know what I'm saying? Or at least Avatar inspired, you know, just that was cool.
And personally, I think it had the best animation style, but I really like that kind of Studio Ghibli look, so I might be a little biased on that one. But I think we're at like 42 minutes now, so I think we're going to let everybody go. Do you have anything you'd like to end on before I leave us out?
Follow us on TikTok.
Follow us on TikTok. You can also join our public Discord down in the comments or in the description of the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with all of the videos Culture Slate releases. And make sure to check our channels to stay up to date with all of the places we put out content. Thank you all again. Once again, I'm James. This is Rich.
That's my cat.
And we will see you next week.
Take care, guys.